Good morning, afternoon, evening. I'm here to tell you a little bit about a games framework built on the NetLogo platform, together with my colleagues Sarah Marigo and Wei Jiang and many others, that lets you run a range of non-spatial group coordination games in human environment contexts. We're in development now looking for some other use cases. So if it's the case that you're thinking of a game and not sure how to implement it, this might be a helpful platform for you. Our group has been working with games for about 10 years now. We've developed a range of symmetric and asymmetric spatial coordination games in sort of human environment problem-solving contexts, typically finding dilemmas that put production and environmental goals in tension. And all of the publications we've made from this work, I've uploaded to this folder along with slides that I'm showing you now, bit.ly/games_netlogo, in case these are of interest. We play them on network tablet computers, so linked via a mobile router. Whether or not you've got internet connectivity at the time, you can play them anywhere you like, wherever it's comfortable to sit for 30 to 40 minutes. And so there's a lot of flexibility in what you can do. And what I want to show today is an example built in this new non-spatial framework that really is designed to let you play the kind of thing you might do with cards, but find just a little bit onerous because maybe there are uncertainties you want to represent or different conditions that are just hard to do with physical cards. So the framework itself does the following. It gets players together in a game where they have some kind of a points budget that they can use to purchase or play cards. The cards that are available to them will depend on where we are in the game and what other people have done before. With some of those cards persisting throughout the game, like assets that you've purchased, while others are sort of, well, just there temporarily, like actions that people undertake. In between turns in the game, players might experience shocks like, oh, there was a storm, or oh, there was a funeral, that are going to affect the budget that they have to do things, or perhaps which among their cards persist. And with that basic structure, sort of 4 points, we can inform all kinds of cool games contexts around, like individual and group responses to uncertainty, opportunities that require group coordination, all kinds of other cool things. So what I'm going to do is show a simple scenario that we've developed really for the purposes of showing what the game framework can do rather than carefully representing an agricultural context. I'll show you how it's coded in spreadsheets, and then I'll give I'll walk through a couple of turns in an actual game to see what it looks like when we play it. So here we're trying to tell a simple story of a farming game played out over some set of agricultural seasons that each is broken up into 6 phases: 2 for land prep, 2 for growing, and 2 for harvesting. Players are able to manage their land across these turns. They're able to buy things, they're able to borrow money and pay it back. And the outcomes for players will depend on what they do, what they invest in, how well they coordinate with other players, and how they respond to uncertainty. So the specific example, imagine one of the paths farmers might take is low intensity farming, and every complete set of land prep, growing, and harvesting at low intensity, each of which costs 3 points. Every complete set of these that they have at the end of a year, they get 16 points for. Alternatively, they might do high intensity farming, where every complete set of high intensity planting, land prep, and harvesting, each costing 7 points, and nets them a yield of 32. Depending on what the land constraint is for farmers in the game that they play, whether or not they invest in high versus low farming will probably vary. Those are 2 very different, but also very plausible land use scenarios. So something we put into this example is the possibility of purchasing an asset that shifts what's available. So imagine they could purchase something like a 2-wheel tractor that opens up possibilities for ripping and other dimensions of like irrigating or harvesting or shelling or other things. So we have imagined it here as opening up this low effort path to high intensity production, allowing us to get that 32 high yield, each with an effort cost of 3. And we've also imagined that when someone has a 2-wheel tractor, this also makes it possible for others around them to some extent to be able to use that two-wheel tractor. To make that happen, it's likely that someone's got to borrow money in order to be able to have enough to purchase the tractor. And in this example, players can borrow from a local lender and then pay them back at some relatively high rate of interest. Or alternatively, when enrollment is available for a village savings and loan, they can enroll in the village savings and loan, buy into the village savings and loan by buying shares. And then once they've done that, that opens up access to borrow from the VSLA and pay them back at likely a much lower interest rate. Now, in between turns, life is going to happen. And in this example, we have the possibility of weddings, funerals, and cyclones that'll impact some of these will impact everybody. Some of them will impact individuals. And it'll impact the points that they have, the cards that they have. Now, before I jump into the example, here's how it's coded. We describe the different games we might want to run across some big experiment with lots of different games in a spreadsheet. Just this, give a session ID and a game ID, describe how long does the game run, how many phases, and then where have we stored the information about the activities that are available, how things like yield are calculated, and what are the shocks they'll experience. And as well, any game-specific parameters you might need to define, and of course you can define whatever parameters are appropriate for your game. Here, this activity file looks like this, and this is this long list of activities, all of which you've already seen. These are the different things we showed in the previous slides, where we specify here what are the conditions and periods within which we would expect to see these different actions appear, how many can people do, what are the costs to them, what are the benefits, what does it add to. The functions, we've developed a maybe clunky, but relatively simple grammar. Here we're describing that mechanism I introduced earlier, that every complete high intensity set yields 32. And then the incomplete sets, we then pool with the low intensity cards, and then every complete set of low intensity cards gives the low intensity yield. That's described here. We also have the interest calculations on the loans. And then we describe the shocks, which again, you've already seen. Do they affect individuals? Do they affect everybody? How likely are they? What happens to people when they strike, and when are they likely to occur? Okay, so that's enough of me telling you about the game. I'll just very briefly show you now what it looks like. So here I'm simulating on my screen what it might look like if we were playing a game with one hub computer and 6 clients logged in to the same game. We'll just launch the game here, and then I'm going to put that out of the way. So here are 6 different players playing the game who would be playing on their own tablets. Our first player here is going to, this is the first phase, and it happens, it's an enrollment period for the VSLA. This player is going to join. They'll also invest some of their 15-point budget, maybe all of their 15-point budget, into land prep and move on. This player also does land prep, low intensity, doesn't join the VSLA. This player does high intensity and does join the VSLA. This player is thinking ahead to, wanting to do some land prep, but also wanting to buy that 2-wheel tractor. They're not going to join the VSLA, but they are going to borrow a bunch of money. It's going to let them buy that 2-wheel tractor. You'll also do high intensity, and this player is just going to sit. So that's the end of the first turn. In between turns, things might happen. In this particular round, nothing did. All of our players confirm that they've seen this. We're ready to move into the next phase. And now we're in our second round. Yeah, our player who bought into the VSLA has the option now to buy shares. And I should also note that we see summaries of what other players had done in their previous turns along the bottom of the screen. So we see a signal of what's happening in other farms. And do a little bit of land prep. There we go. And this player will do land prep. This player also. Now here we get our player here has the resources to buy this 2-wheel tractor, and then they'll also do some high intensity land prep. This player will do this. Our player who did nothing also has the opportunity to buy a 2-wheel tractor, so they'll do that. Good for them. And we'll move into our next round. Now, in between rounds here, we see there was a wedding to which many people were invited, but which was costly. There was also a funeral that impacted a number of people in the game. So this is going to cost us. It's going to mean in our next round, we probably have limited resources available to invest in farm prep. No worries. Yeah, not many people have resources to do much, but I do want to highlight that now that some people in our community have purchased that two-wheel tractor, they are able, let's see, none of our, oh, here we go. So this player here purchased the two-wheel tractor. They're able to do some two-wheel tractor enabled high intensity work, not a ton because their budget's low. And then other players who didn't purchase the two-wheel tractor are able to make use of sort of a limited pool of shared access to these two-wheel tractors as they go. Not a lot can happen right now. It was an unfortunate period. Okay, now we see here these two players who had their two-wheel tractors loaned out, earned a little bit of money, but also had to pay out for another wedding, another funeral. Let's see where we are in the next turn. And so now we've got some resources available. We're going to do some high intensity two-wheel tractor enabled. You see here, our player who's part of the Village Savings and Loan has lots of options here. So we had to scroll down to find, there we go. So they've made use of all of the free two-wheel tractors. And move between another turn. Cyclone happened, impacting everybody. That's unfortunate. We'll acknowledge this. And now we'll be into our third phase of the year where people can begin to invest in harvesting. I won't step too much further through this game. I really just wanted to be able to show you the kinds of things that are possible. So that's where I'll end it. Again, we're looking for different use cases that you may have a problem you've been wanting to implement as a game, and this might be a good fit for this. If you feel like it might, please feel free to reach out. Please, if you're interested in any of the other games frameworks that we make use of, again, it would be wonderful to speak, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much for your time.